discuss stock car racing in the Canadian Maritimes, Raceline viewers are more than familiar with action in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. But this picture is incomplete without Canada's smallest province. Prince Edward Island is the focal point of the ocean playground geography, with a stock car racing history that goes back to Canada's centennial in 1967. There's a love and passion for the stocks on PEI as intense as anywhere in the country. It doesn't matter that the haul to the Island Oval includes a brief ride over the waves. It takes a lot more than the Atlantic Ocean to keep the MASCAR stars marooned on the mainland. To become MASCAR champion, all ground must be conquered. And that includes the tight and tough quarter-mile oval that lies atop the rich red PEI soil at Oyster Bed Bridge. From Raceway Park, Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, it's the GM Goodwrench 200 on the MASCAR Super Series on Raceline. Hi again, everyone. I'm Eric Thomas, along with Ken Packham and John Massingbird. Ken, we got to apply a little geography to our situation here tonight. Take those same MASCAR regulars that entertained us at New Brunswick, move them off the mainland, onto the island, put them on a track that's very tight, very slippery. And the way these guys were ripping up cars here today in the preliminaries, this might be the closest we get to World War III all summer.
Man, you got to know that. And this is going to be some night. I want you to know. In the preliminaries, like you said, it's just been incredible. I was here opening night to call the races when this track was opened about 7 years ago as a dirt track.
Right.
We thought it was wild then. That was a tame group of folks compared to what you're going to see tonight.
Frank Fraser out of Timberley has been on a tear. This guy has been red hot since New Brunswick. Can anybody stop him?
I don't know. Frank has been on a run, but you know, Frank will be the first one to tell you he's had some pretty good starting positions in a couple of those races. He's a little further back in the field tonight. There's some real hot shoes on the front end. It's going to be fun.
For more on tonight's starting lineup, here's John Massingbird.
Well, thanks, gentlemen. We are about to enter into 200 laps of close contact MASCAR-style stock car racing. One of the best in the business has just come off a second-place win at the very prestigious Oxford 250 in Oxford, Maine. Greg Stewart, you're sandwiched kind of in the middle of the pack here. Greg, what's it going to be tonight?
Well, I think we'll just probably try to take our time and stay out of trouble, and hopefully we'll be there in the end. The racetrack's kind of greased up a little from the oil they put down in the pits to keep the dust down, but hopefully about 20-30 laps that'll be wore off.
Greg, qualifying this afternoon was rough and tumble. You managed to come out unscathed. Do you worry about working traffic from this far back in the pack in the early going?
Yes, definitely. You got a lot of fast cars, and they like to run tight, and we'll bump and grind a little bit. Hopefully we'll be able to keep it in one piece.
Well, if anybody can take a ride to the front, it's this man. And we're going to find out how fast and how far when we return on Raceline. We're ready to go, Greg.
As the pace car moves the field around Ken Packham, they are crammed into every nook and cranny at this place. This is one of the largest crowds I have seen in a long time. We've been all over the countryside.
Well, you know, the funny thing about it, the first race of the GM Goodwrench Super Series at Petty Raceway, which we were at just a short while ago, we said, man, you're not going to get anybody else in those seats. I never realized how much room there was there until I tried to take a look here.
Well, I'm terrible at estimating crowds, but I put it at least 4,000 and probably more. GM Goodwrench Service Plus Track Facts. Raceway Park, Oyster Bed Bridge, just outside of Charlottetown. Today, obviously now under the lights, but it was sunny, breezy, slightly humid, but darn hot under the direct sun, Ken.
You bet it was. Just a perfect Prince Edward Island day, and it's the kind of weather that people leave central Canada for to head out there on vacation.
This track was plenty slippery under that sun. They are hoping that the grip will improve when the sun goes down like we have it right now. Field moving by, Greg Stewart in the 99, Dean Plattenberg in the 92. Gives you an idea of the configuration of this place, and Rolly McDonald tells me it is a story of survival at this racetrack, and we'll elaborate a little later on. Doug Stokes off the rock at St. John's, Newfoundland, the 50-year-old racing veteran on the point in the Lumina on row 1. Elaine Vance out of Fall River, Nova Scotia. This young lady has been winning races. It's her rookie year, and they're lucky to have her here. Steve Henderson out of Truro, Nova Scotia. He's a strong runner as well, 15-year veteran, 10 with MASCAR.
Stevie's been around for a long time, and this guy has been too. He started racing mini stocks at Onslow Speedway. It got to be 12, 13 years ago. Danny Eddy from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, the only Ford on the tour. This guy, many-time champion, the Walker Dynamax Chevy Z28. Terry Clattenburg from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia.
John Fleming is 27 years old. This is his rookie campaign with MASCAR. Are the freshmen ever doing a nice job?
For sure. New dad, too, on the tour.
And look at the balance of the field. Sean Conrad, Rookie of the Year with MASCAR last year in a brand new left-hander chassis. He likes the way this thing is adjustable. Watch for him to be very quick here tonight.
He's a fellow to watch right through the rest of the season, actually. Sean is really starting to mature, and he's really coming of age in a hurry.
Bob Ewell, Rolly McDonald, there he is, the MASCAR legend in car number 13. As the field moves around here, just getting set to unfurl that white flag and let him go one more time around. Scott Frazier, row number 12. A new car for him since we left him at Petty Raceway, but he's already bruised it in one of the preliminaries.
Scott has had the year of years. You know, you wake up and say, gee, I just had a nightmare last night, and it was the worst year of my life. He's living it, the poor man. But I can tell you this much, Scott Frazier will be in the groove, and he will win races for the end of this year.
He is a threat to win every time he rolls it off the trailer. Is this place as rugged as these drivers tend to lead us to believe it is?
There is no question about that. This is a very challenging track. It's well laid out. It isn't as banked as Antigonish. That's where the final event is going to be.
That
That's
place
the
is
bowl.
crazy.
It's a bear pit. I can hardly wait for that. But this will bring out the drivers in the group.
Doug Stokes, Elaine Vance coming out of turn number 4, going to get that green flag from Art Steves, and the GM Goodwrench 200 on the MASCAR Super Series is underway at Raceway Park and Oyster Bed Bridge.
And a big salute to the dealer marketing associations for General Motors. Both Pontiac and Chevrolet dealer groups, their dealer marketing associations are solidly behind the Bud MASCAR Tour 94 and the GM Goodwrench Super Series. And this is really, really putting motorsports in Atlantic Canada straight up front.
And these fans are so loyal. As we mentioned it before, it's a huge crowd on hand. Doug Stokes, 50 years old, out of St. John's, Newfoundland. If you had an award for the longest distance traveled, if you include nautical miles, Stokesy wins hands down. That's a pretty hairy ferry ride from St. John's across.
Well, you know, being the Air Atlantic, Lumina really helps because I think the Air Atlantic's back and forth, but he's still nursing the leftovers of a compressed vertebrae or two and a couple of broken ribs from the beginning of the season. Yeah,
he's walking around pretty tenderly. Elaine Vance on a Fall River. Am I impressed with this young lady? And we mentioned how lucky MASCAR is to have her. The difference between Elaine and other female stock car competitors we've dealt with over the years, Ken, is that she wins races. Don't forget, she won the B feature at Petty Raceway. She won a qualifying heat here, out front leading. This is a very talented lady, and I like her demeanor as well.
Talented lady, nice lady, great image for the sport, and lots of moxie, I'll tell you that.
Out front and leading is our pole sitter, Doug Stokes, in car 30. Dropped back a little bit. Everybody just sort of playing it pretty cozy at the moment. 200 laps. There's Terry Clattenburg in car number 2. 5-time career MASCAR points champion. A long talk with him about setup, and we'll get to that a little bit later.
Terry Clattenburg has been plagued with a lot of nasty little gremlins jumping up and biting him when he least expected it.
Yellow flag. You just saw it there off the corner of your screen, and now Scott Kelly parked up where he doesn't want to be on the rim of the track, and that's going to bring out the first yellow of the evening here in the GM Goodwrench 200. He is our leader currently in MASCAR rookie points.
Yes, he is, and he's doing a great job rookie-wise, too. Another one of our second-generation racers, of course, Junior Kelly. His dad ran the number 50 car for years and years.
Champion in all kinds of race machines. Just seemed, I don't know whether he got tapped in the back end or what here, Ken. He just sort of lost it. Now he's up into the rhubarb, and that brings out, as we said, the first yellow. Talked to him before the race, very brief conversation. I said, what do you think of this place? He says, Eric, it looks like it might be a lot of fun. That's not fun when you do that.
Let's check the two-way radio on board with Sean Conrad.
Sean Conrad, Eric Thomas, Raceline Control. Do you read, Sean?
Sure do, Eric. How you doing?
Not too bad at all. How are you doing out there? We worked with a very slippery racetrack this afternoon. Has some of that slipperiness gone away when the sun went away?
Well, yeah, a little bit did, but, gee, it's still a little greasy out here. We're going to have to kind of take our cool until we get sorted out a bit. But as the track gets a little, our cars get a little warmer, the track gets a little better, we should be okay. As long as everybody keeps their head for a few more laps, we'll do all right.
Thank you, Sean.
A lot of the drivers thought their tire costs would go up when we went to slicks this year. They have found that their tire costs are actually going down, and they're real happy.
Hi, welcome to the Parts Pro Performance Center Tech File. you know, a race car can be about the most hostile environment in which you can put a driver. Temperatures in these things in long races come up to 130, 140 degrees. Well, over the years, there's been a number of innovations that help drivers at least bear the heat a little bit better. They become a little more comfortable. One of them is this fresh air system. Elaine Vance uses it, and essentially what you've got under this spun aluminum cap is an air filter that goes down into an electric fan, which pumps the air through this tubing into this ice box, which has got heat exchangers in it, sucks all of the heat out of the warm air, also filters the air so that Elaine's got clean carbon-free air, comes out into this tube and up into her helmet, and there's a continuous supply of fresh air for Elaine. Now, when you think about not only exhaust fumes from other cars, but also the heat and everything coming off the inside of this car, it makes a whole lot more sense to keep the driver comfortable. It'll keep more attention to the racetrack, more attention to the race car, and hopefully it makes a difference between a win and a loss.
Alrighty, set to resume the GM Goodwrench 200 from Raceway Park at Oyster Bed Bridge. And look at Elaine Vance. She's a rookie, the only female in MASCAR, but hanging on to that lead as we've seen her do before. Coming down with that green flag, and we're back underway, Ken.
So far this year, Elaine has completed every race that she has been in.
Excellent.
And she's been in every one.
We're by the wall here.
Heat action tonight, Eric. Incredible. We had 36 cars show up for 27 start spots. Wow. Look out, mama.
And did we rip up a lot of race cars here on a very slippery track? You talked about those tires. Those slick tires, rubber is very hard, so grip is at a premium. It's tough for these guys to find any sort of adhesion to the track, and Plattenberg in car 2 has been working on it, and I promise we will get to what he told me earlier on. Now, Elaine getting gobbled up here and falling off the pace, and that's a shame.
It certainly is, but hey, that's the price of getting involved and working your way into that comfort zone that we talked about before on the previous race.
Car 50, and you're riding on board with him. Frank Fraser out of Shubenacadie. He won our main event at Petty Raceway at Petitcodiac, and he's been uncatchable ever since. He's won every one of the MASCAR events on the schedule since that race.
Frank Fraser has retired twice from the Bud MASCAR Tour. This obviously works well for him.
Well, he doesn't look retired to me. Navigating his way around this tight 1/4 mile confine.
Probably one of the few race groups in the country where there's two father and son teams at every event competing against one another.
Frank Fraser in the 50, and his son Scott driving the 00 machine in the Clattenburgs in car 2 and car 92.
You bet.
There's Terry Clattenburg right now, the 50-year-old 5-time career points champion. Right behind him, a guy who's won the championship 4 times, 9 years combined championship running right there, the 99 and car number 2.
Yeah, well, the Thruway Muffler 99 of Greg Seward is running on a back-to-back points championships,
exactly.
2 in a row, and so he's our defending champ again this year. You're right.
Won it last year and the year before, gunning for a 3rd consecutive title. And so far, that car looks to be running nice and square around here, which is not an easy thing to do. Here they come by the wall. Some guys are getting awful close to it, especially in turn 3. I've never seen a wall like that. That thing's like a man-eating plant. It just reaches out and grabs these cars.
And it does harvest a few in the series, I can tell you that.
It certainly does. We saw that earlier today. Back to this battle between Terry Clattenburg in the 2 and Greg Seward in the 99.
They're a pretty evenly matched pair of guys, too. They've been at war as long as I can remember this circuit, every year, just all over one.
Here's a nice little 3-way skirmish going. Wayne Smith on the 44, Dean Clattenburg in the 92, and Sean Conrad in car 31. These guys are packed together. They've been doing this for about the last 10 or 12 laps or so.
There's so many good races within a race. When you look at the Bud MASCAR Tour, you know, and follow any of these GM Goodwrench Super Series events, you can watch the lead group, and if you get tired of that, there's another group who got their own little deal going. Yeah.
Dean Clattenburg on the outside. Wayne Smith gets tapped in the back end. Almost lost it, but he's able to gather it up. Clattenburg at the moment, right here in 92, is our current MASCAR points leader.
He's got a real good shot at it. I'll tell you, another up-and-comer who's running on no budget, has 1 engine for the whole season, is the number 80 car, Roger Miller, and he is in his rearview mirror in the points chase.
Absolutely, and as a matter of fact, we check back in the pack here, and he is starting to move up between traffic. But just, hey, listen, 200 laps is a long time on a 1/4 mile track of this configuration. There's no panic yet to try and gain ground, but Miller's out there. He's sticking rather well.
Oh, you bet he is. Consistent guy, and he's just always there.
Wayne Smith handling well. That is really no surprise, Ken. He won the B main, or the B feature here, just a little while ago. So the theory is, with this crew, if the car can win the B main, why can't it win the A event? And that's the GM Goodwrench 200.
Well, Wayne Halfway Smith earned his name legitimately because he got more halfway money in a few years than anybody else in the tour. But he and the quality of cars that he is driving have matured nicely through the last 2 or 3 years. It's the best car yet.
Cy Harvey out of Elmsdale, Nova Scotia, with that hood missing, kind of looking like a modified out there. Is he a fan favorite? I heard you mention him on the PA, and the crowd went berserk. He's got a big cheering section.
You know, it's interesting to watch people respond to the various drivers, and they all have their little group, as you say. But Cy is one of these guys that'll always push the envelope and keep things interesting.
He is one of the MASCAR originals, 25-year racing veteran. Now, let's go back to this chat that I had with Terry Clattenburg. With this new hard rubber tire, grip is hard to come by. And he says, I've done a lot of research and development in getting the 4 corners of the car to stick down to get the biggest footprint. We're back on board with Frank Fraser. He didn't want to tell me all the details. In his vernacular, more bars in the back, no bars in the front. Is he onto something? I think so, because he was one of the fastest, if not the fastest car out here this afternoon, and he's holding well right now on these tracks.
He certainly is, and the fellow we were driving with there, too, is Mr. Chassis Setup, as you mentioned before. A lot of the young fellows go over to him and say, Frank, what is the plan?
Exactly.
Frank Fraser, by the way, the left front tire on his car has been in every event so far this year.
And here's an event for you right now. A couple of cars in the darkness up here go all the way around. Tough to see the numbers, but this will be our second yellow of the event.
Lots of action in that 1 and 2 turn, and as you can see there, they're just getting cleared out. Stevie Henderson in the 67 car.
Tough break for Henderson, Ken. He qualified very well. And that's the 17 car, 88 NASCAR champ Paul Hebert out of Shediac Bridge, New Brunswick.
He uses a little different approach in his car, too. He uses a 340 cubic inch Mopar wedge, but it has a torque converterless, torque light automatic transmission on the back of it.
Well, he's been around such a long time. Obviously, he's convinced it works.
That is a basis from one of the original Chrysler kit cars you could buy back in '73.
I do remember those kit cars. I think I put a model together, one of those once upon a time. Some of that huge crowd we were talking about. And you have a look at that racing surface and the glare under the lights, you know it's pretty slippery.
Let's go on board with Dean Clattenburg.
Dean Clattenburg, Eric Thomas, Raceline Control. Do you read, Dean?
Yeah, I got a copy, GS.
Dean, you're moving up through the pack rather nicely, but how is your grip? Is it a concern right now?
I got real good bite. I'm developing a push. We tightened the car up from the afternoon, and it didn't seem to be a good move.
Your dad's running well up front. Is he catchable?
Any indication of what he was running this afternoon, he should be gone.
Thank you, Dean.
Dean Clattenburg referring to his fast father, who is running rather well on the speedway at the moment.
You did mention one thing that scares me, a tight race car. You don't want it here. We're back at Raceway Park on Raceline in a moment. Welcome back to Raceway Park, Oyster Bed Bridge, just outside of Charlottetown, PEI. GM Goodwrench 200, Eric Thomas, Ken Packham, and John Massingbird. I'm looking forward to it.
Terry Clattenburg on top in the 2 in the Walker Dynamax and Camaro Z28. Frank Fraser in a minus buffer Chevy Lumina, and Greg Seward in the throughway muffler Camaro. It is the battle of the muffler shops.
Muffler shops up front and battling. And look at this. Scott Fraser, who just bruised up that brand new car here earlier here today on the point, but down on the inside, he's a lapped automobile as they get going here again.
He is the lead car in the lapped bunch. On the inside, we line them up that way. Lapped cars the inside, lead lap cars the outside. Right. The man has got to be asking himself a lot of questions in the rear view whenever he slows down like that.
Look at this, Terry Clattenburg. We talked about that setup with the bars in the back and nothing on the front that was fast today. When the sun goes down, the lights come on. It looks like he's still pretty quick up front and leading now. Frank Fraser gets punted to the outside with sparks flying, and he's up into mosquito land up here, and this is not where he wants to be at all. Where the devil is he going?
Well, he's going right back where he came from by the looks of it after a fast trip through the bull rush.
Going to pull it back on as soon as he can find an opening, but Frank Fraser got sort of moved to the outside. I didn't know whether anything broke or not, but the sparks were flying, and they're still flying. He's right down to the ground with the left front tire gone right down to the rim.
It looks like he may have dropped a bar out of the suspension. It certainly looks like a piece of the link system maybe dropped down there.
It's kind of a spectacular show here at night, so the yellow comes out again. With one of the guys that we talked about being a favorite, he has won every one of these events since his victory on Raceline at Petty Raceway at Petticodiac, but now the car looks to be pretty badly wounded. Let's get into a little trivia here, brought to you by Performance Racing News, North America's Motorsport Authority, and I know you know the answer, but you're not eligible. Stock car racing on the island, PEI started in 67, 52, or 71. Think about it for a little bit, refer to your history books if you like, and we'll get the answer a little bit later on.
Sounds like fun to me.
Now the work is fast and furious in the Fraser pit here, trying to get to whatever ails that front end besides that flat sneaker.
He's got one heck of a crew, I can tell you that. And one of the premier movers in that bunch is the big fella on the jack over there, John Thumper Barr. And he's been with Frank since the time, well, gosh, I don't know, since probably at least 10 years. And he's a pretty colorful guy. As you can see, there's a couple of them there getting a little on the crusty side.
Well, I think Thumper may have let the jack down a little too soon before they had all the nuts tightened on that tire. And the wheel. That's all they needed was to get out there and have that thing. No, they're not happy at all. That didn't go the way they wanted it to.
But he's on his way back out, and that is the plan.
All righty, so ready for another restart. Terry Clattenburg in car 2 is your leader. Greg Seward in the 99 right behind him. Scott Fraser 00. Those are the lap cars down on the lower groove. Green flag comes up from Art Steves. Back underway at Raceway Park for the GM Goodwrench 200.
Oyster Bed Bridge has gone through an incredible amount of development in this racing facility in the last 2 or 3 years, and basically started out a number of years back as a drag strip, and the drag strip is still there and functional. It is a complete race plant on the island, and it really draws crowds.
And I believe it is the only multi-purpose race facility in the Maritimes.
Yes, you're right, and you know, we just found out moments ago tonight's official paid attendance for this GM Goodwrench 200. 5,271 paid adults plus kids and complimentary. So you get 6,000 people.
In excess. I mean, I had it pegged about $4,000. It's a little bit healthier than that, and that is fantastic. The largest crowd I think that our cameras have played in front of in a long, long time. This is the view of the back end of Scott Fraser's 00 as he makes his way around the bottom here. Not the best kind of an outing for Scott Fraser, and his frustrations continue.
No, but you did have the camera mounted looking towards the best end of the car at this point, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, the front end is mashed up pretty badly. Saw Cy Hyver in the 49 right here, going into the darkness in the turn. Elaine Vance in the 7. The rest of the field still stretching itself out. No one is really willing to take any chances. We're still, relatively early in the event.
And the longest event ever held at this facility.
Yellow is coming out, first serious event of this particular GM Goodwrench 200. Yellow flag to slow it down. The 13 of Rolly McDonald, there he is, and Dave Gorvette in the 77. What a shame for Rolly. He got ripped up at Petty. He's getting ripped up again.
Rolly McDonald's got to be asking himself a lot of questions right now, too. He lost the radiator, the front clip off the car at Petty. He's now lost some of the front clip and the radiator again. You can see the coolant running out onto the track surface right now.
Other than the fact that the car kind of looks like a screwed up paper bag here, there is a distinct difference with this car from what he ran at Petty Raceway. It's a white automobile now. It was black at Petty. I said, why did you change? He says, well, maybe a change of luck. He says, a white car is cooler to drive. The black paint attracts too much heat. Well, right now, I don't think paint really matters a whole heck of a lot. We've got all kinds of innards out of the 13 all over the racetrack. It's going to take a while to clean this up. Let's have a look and see what triggered this mess with Dave Gorvette in the 77 and Rolly in the 13. Oh, ouch.
Bob Ewell into it too there, and Bob managed to get out of the way there without losing too much of the front end in the 33 car.
So Rolly McDonald in the 13, Dave Gorvette in the 77 get the worst of it. Let's go on board here and see if we can see what triggered this. Boy, that is a very expensive sound as the Gorvette 77 goes into the wall, and you rode with him as he went hard into the concrete. So the cleanup continues. Rolly McDonald's bad luck continues, and a shame for a MASCAR legend. No matter where motorsport is conducted, it has a definite and a very chartable impact on that neighborhood or its marketplace, and that's both social impact and financial impact. Now, when you have more than one racing facility in a market, the numbers tend to bend a little bit and get a little bit gray. But when you have one facility like Raceway Park in Oyster Bed Bridge, and that's near Charlottetown, and that's the only track in that marketplace, well, the numbers tend to get a little more cut and dry. Stock car racing's impact on the island began in 1967 at the long-defunct facility at Freetown. In 1971, things got serious again with the opening of PEI Dragway at Oyster Bed Bridge. In 1980, Kevin Power, a master mechanic and drag racer, and 2 associates expanded the property to include a stock car oval, and the name was changed to Raceway Park, the only dual-purpose race plant in the Maritimes.
Well, there was no stock car racing in probably 10 years, and we certainly saw a place for it. It was very popular back early days. Dirt racing, then, we decided we'd take a shot at it. We already had the drag strip and thought we'd like to add the stock cars.
Noise pollution and air pollution, two critical issues as we all want to protect the environment. So it's critical for facilities like this to be good neighbors and be cognizant of those two key issues each and every time they race here. But for Raceway Park here in Charlottetown, it doesn't just stop there. They like to do a lot of charity work as well. They'll have special nights here for the Children's Wish Foundation and the Multiple Sclerosis Society.
Well, I feel it's important. This is a family sport. There's family people involved. It's charities, usually families, whether it's the hospital or in the community, doesn't matter. You know, everybody's got to support everybody else. To say it's like racing. Everybody supports each other. So we try to get involved.
But Raceway Park's contributions don't stop there. While major sport arenas for baseball or football are often publicly funded, places like this are privately funded, and they are often much more generous when they give something back to their communities than those so-called bigger sports.
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a surprise, all right, but we've been at this for quite a long time. And you take a look around here today, for example, over half of our race cars and half of our spectators are from off-island. Just check with CN Marine. I'm sure they'll agree, you know, with the run that there's been on motorhomes, trailers, cars, the whole shooting match. It's pretty impressive.
These numbers are certainly staggering, and you do bring a lot of commerce to this area. I would hope that the community in return would appreciate the business that this track and this sport brings to their community.
Well, we've worked with the business on the island for a long time, and I think they're starting to really see what's going on. Matter of fact, here tonight, not only is Mr. Goodwrench here, but representatives such as the Deputy Minister of Tourism and so on are here having a look to see for themselves.
With Canada's slow economy, it's incredible to think opponents of motorsport would attack something that's so vital to the local economy. But we're happy to report Raceway Park doesn't hear very much negative talk about their sport or their facility. In actual sense, this is nothing more than common sense, because the fans and the local merchants know that the stock car races are certainly a lot more than just loud, exciting entertainment. The stock car races are just darn good for business. Kevin Power and the staff and competitors at Raceway Park, some of racing's colorful people, brought to you by Kodak.
Back on the Speedway, Raceway Park, Oyster Bed Bridge, Prince Edward Island, Goodwrench 200 leaderboard. Terry Clattenburg is up top. Greg Seward in the 99. Roger Miller, look at him now in the 80 car.
We talked about him climbing his way quietly up through traffic, sitting pretty right now in third place.
Well, the King of the Road's dad turned 50 just about the time of this race.
I was going to use that terminology, King of the Road, but I thought, no, it's too corny.
No,
Thank you, Ken.
That's what they call him.
Thank you, Ken. Roger Miller doing a great job, and so is Clattenburg and the two up front as Art Steves unfurls the green, and we're back underway in the GM Goodwrench 200.
Eric, it's so gratifying to see a first-class facility like this. They've made an incredible investment here over the last few years to upgrade this place. And I'll tell you one thing, boy, it's nice to see the GM Goodwrench Super Series out here. The GM Dealer Association, the Marketing Association are involved in this to help bring it to everybody in Canada to show them just how good these guys really are.
Oh, exactly. And it's nice to see those dealers get enthused about this MASCAR Series. Yellow's coming out again. And we've got a problem, the 10 of Ed Hayden. And that's not the 77 of Gorvette again. I didn't think you could bend that car up anymore.
Eddie took a major league smack right on the driver's side in that number 10 car. I wouldn't be surprised to see them wait for an ambulance or get the emergency vehicles out there right away. He took a big hit there.
Yeah, he did, and they're going to stop it right now. They haven't red flagged it. Car's still moving. But Dave Gorvette at a Sherwood PEI, not too far from here. You see some of the moisture from Ed Hayden's number 10 leaking down, but they're going to get over there and just make sure that they don't move him before they really know the extent of whatever injuries are there.
Well, the McPhee Pontiac Goodwrench Buick is probably going to be sidelined for sure after this. Let's have a look.
On our replay, way up ahead of where our camera location, there's the 10 of Hayden going into the wall hard.
And you know what's coming.
Oh, exactly. He had nowhere to go at all. He tries to swerve it, locks it up, and he's into the wall, and there goes our camera. That was a hard hit, you're right.
First indicator of a real hard hit is when they bring out the tilt bed.
That's right.
To get it off the track. Wow, what a major league smash. But it does say a lot for the way they build MASCARs. The rules that are in place.
That's right.
Safety equipment, the cage and everything has literally saved Ed Hayden's big.
John Massingbird is down in the pits, and he's got Ed Hayden with him. John?
Well, short track stock car race is known as being rough and tumble, but Eddie, you don't take a worse hit when you take one in the door. You all right?
It reminds me of a couple years ago. We took a hit like this here and we came back. I'm okay. I'm gonna be bruised and sore tomorrow, but these guys will be back next week. You know, these guys are great help, and I got lots of support with McPhee Pontiac, and them guys are great. Down East Cellular. We'll all get together, and we got a long week. We hope to be back racing next week. I think we can fix it. It's a little too tough to get back out there tonight, but that's the way racing goes, and that wall just won't move.
Tough night for
I feel bad
Ed.
for Dave. I got in the way of Dave Gorvette there. It's too bad. I hope he isn't out of the race.
Good luck. We'll see you next time around.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Cleanup continues at Raceway Park, and there's more of the GM Goodwrench 200 to come in a moment. Eric Thomas, Ken Packham, John Massenberg, Raceway Park, Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, and more of the GM Goodwrench 200 to come. Things have turned a little bit physical here, Ken Packham.
Boy, they certainly have, and the guys supply body parts and flexi flyer bodies and things are sitting at home rubbing their hands in anticipation of future sales increases.
Green flag and back underway in the GM Goodwrench 200. Terry Clattenburg, there he is, car 2. Elaine Vance in the 7 is the lead car of the lapped pack, if you want to put it that way.
Still in the fray, maybe not in the position she would like to be in, but like we talked about earlier, consistency, finding the comfort zone, establishing the plan, and it takes a few seasons before you get to where you want to be.
One big difference I'm noticing between this race and the race we did on Raceline and Petty Raceway at Benacodiac is that Greg Seward wasn't really involved that much in the battling up front. There he is, the Thruway Muffler Chevrolet, car number 99. We mentioned it before because it's a big story. This guy's gunning for 3 consecutive championships. The last guy to do that, I believe, was Clattenburg, 89, 90, and 91.
It's not a comforting feeling to have the man filling your rearview mirror at any time on the Speedway because he is known as one of the world's great opportunists.
His car is nice and clean. He's been able to avoid problems here. Let's go back to that banking story. I talked to Rolly McDonald, who wasn't the victim of that, but got involved in a mess. You sort of got to go uphill to turns 1 and 2, downhill to 3 and 4, and watch out for that funny wall in turn number 3 because it can come out and grab you. So not only are you battling cars on the surface, the configuration around the outside can really give you fits as well.
The only track in the world that was ever more challenging was the day Cayuga Speedway opened in Ontario as a dirt track, and they had a giant frost boil in the front stretch, and it kept moving all the way through the day.
I do remember. I do remember some of those battles out there.
June of '66.
Clattenburg in the 2 and Seward in the 99 picking their way through this field. The debris flying there, just a piece of paper. I don't think it was a part from it. Clattenburg weaving his way around the outside along with Seward. These guys have really got their cars sticking well, and with those hard tires, it's a big story too. Grip is hard to come by, but this track getting a little slipperier than we thought it would be, even with the sun down. So it's another thing they've got to wrestle with, Ken.
Got a little bit of humidity today.
Yep.
I mean, not a real big problem here, but they're getting the setup geared to the rubber. And it's taken part of the season for them to learn how to do that because, as you mentioned, it's the first year on slicks. They're probably a half to 3/4 of an inch thick. It takes a while to get the heat through that carcass.
It sure does. Talking to Frank Fraser before, as there's Scott Kelly, who was involved in an earlier spin in car number 12, and some smoke goes up and down into the infield.
Scott Fraser. Hard to believe this man's luck. Oh.
Little car wash for him there, but this is a brand new car. We ran into him on the street of one of the shopping malls and says, you got to see my new car. It's a beauty because this is a new machine since we raced at Petty Raceway. But he already banged it up the preliminaries and it's all ripped up again. That bad luck has been just too much for this young man.
Well, the water wouldn't dampen his spirits any because I'm sure that already happened when the steam went up.
Terry Clattenburg, 50 years old, a graduate of the sportsman ranks, and a one-time drag racer.
Yes, he was.
That experience has lended itself to the straightaways around here, you never know, but it's just part of his very impressive portfolio of experience, and he's showing it here right now. We predicted, because of the way he had the car set up in the daytime, he might be the rabbit they're all chasing, and so far, that's been happening. This is our original pole sitter, the 30 of Doug Stokes out of St. John's, Newfoundland, but he's decidedly off the pace and back fighting for room here in the midst of the pack, along with Mike McKenzie in the 02.
Doug has a new car. They're still getting the setup straight on that vehicle, number 1. Number 2, he's still fighting some fatigue and pain from the compressed vertebrae from the accident.
That, yeah.
So he's got a lot of devils to deal with out there.
There's Steve Henderson in the 67. moving his way through traffic. But these two guys are just sort of like glued together, and I think Seward is being pretty patient at this point, Ken. He knows he can probably get around Clattenburg, but he wants to pick the right time. If he picks the wrong time, these lap cars could give him real trouble.
Greg Seward is a great believer of a phrase uttered by another famous Canadian in motorsports by the name of Brad Francis, who used to always say, "You gotta have a plan."
And he's got the plan in place. You can just see him having a look down the inside. The Clattenburg number 2 is sticking very, very nicely, as Seward is as well. But I think he's going to try and think about a pass in the next little while here.
Terry's car couldn't handle any better than what it's been handling so far in this event. And I know he's probably sitting in there right now saying, wow, the gremlins are gone. Every time this happens to me, something jumps up and bites me, and this time it's not going to. You got to know that he's enjoying every lap.
Swinging around the outside of number 6, George Koskulik out of New Glasgow, Nova Scotia. Another MASCAR original, but he has been off the pace. I believe he was as well at Petty, and same situation here at Raceway Park.
George is getting in shape as he just picked up some sponsorship with the dealership in Northumberland, actually. The GM dealer have been helping him out with some Goodwrench assistance as well. So George is doing some on-the-move upgrading with his team.
There's the 50 of Frank Fraser. You see him down on the bottom there. Had those problems with something breaking in the suspension and that front tire going down. He'll drop it down the middle groove. Stewart looking for this pass. Going to use Fraser as a bit of a locomotive and try for it here. Clattenburg hung up on the outside, Ken.
He's in the right spot at this point in time by the looks of things, because Frank is a little bit off where he wants to be. Terry can run that car the way it's set up right now at just about any spot in the track.
Elbowed him in the ribs to let him know he was there, but couldn't make the pass as the Fraser 50 got in the way and he couldn't make it cleanly, so he drops back. So Clattenburg knew he was there. Now he is positively certain that he's back there.
You know the neighbors are home when they knock on your back door.
And they almost kick in the screen, that's for sure. It's a great battle up front, though, isn't it? Terry Clattenburg in the 2 out of Dartmouth. And the 99 of Greg Seward out of Arndale, Nova Scotia. These guys continue to weave their way through. And Seward's going to try and find another situation where he can try and make the pass, because I'm convinced he's got the quicker automobile, Ken.
Yep, I think you're right. And at this point, Terry is not running the lap times that he was running even 10 laps ago.
No, you're right. He has fallen off that clock a little bit. Slippery track, perhaps, and maybe the car going away just a little.
Stuck our head outside the booth a moment or two ago, and you can hear kind of a flat sound when he gets to the end of the front stretch.
Well, ignition, that may be the telltale sound or sign of it right there. Now here we go. Seward swings it around high on the outside, makes the pass rather easily, and you're right, Clattenburg slowed down there, so something wrong with the number 2, and Greg Seward, our defending champion, back-to-back defending champion, takes over the point here in the GM Goodwrench 200.
It almost looked like Terry signaled him by.
Yeah,
maybe
almost.
Just pulled out of the way and let him go.
He just seemed to lose some power, and I don't think that Seward expected the pass to be that easy.
Well, there is no possible way Terry would have done that unless he was running out of groceries and knew he couldn't stay in the fray any longer.
Yeah, somehow the car lost power, and Frank Fraser there in the 50. And there's Clattenburg down on the bottom. You're right, that car is not up to the way it was running before. It just doesn't seem to have the get up and go. This was lost some of its gusto somewhere.
Well, it certainly wasn't in the chassis setup. That is a fact. They've done an incredible job of dialing it into the surface here at Raceway Park.
And as he told me before the race began, without giving me too many details, they have spent a lot of time in research and development to get the car to spring properly, to get the 4 corners to sit down, to get the biggest tire footprint that they can, because this is a slippery track and those hard tires make grip very hard to discover.
You know, if you look at some of the shops, the garages that some of these teams work from, you know, Terry has TC Welding and Automotive, big company, but they actually build the cars, Dean's car and his car, in slightly larger than a double garage. That's it.
Well, things have gone from bad to disaster as Terry Clattenburg pulls the very dominant number 2 down onto the infield. The thing has just about lost all of its power, and the attention turns to the other half of the family. Dean Clattenburg, our current MASCAR points leader in car number 92.
Mean Dean has got the Guilford's Pontiac just whistling out there. You know, that this young fella has matured so much in just the last couple of seasons. Rookie of the Year 2 years back, just edged Scott Fraser for that honor in the final race of that season.
And another award that he's very proud of and always mentions that we should mention it. A former winner of the MASCAR Most Sportsmanlike Driver Award, and problems with smoke and dust and into the darkness.
Bad piece of luck for Leo Cochran in the number 8, the Chrysler LeBaron.
Oh, yeah, Leo Cochran, 40 years old, from a place called Williams Wood, Nova Scotia, not too far from Peggy's Cove. A lot of our viewers visiting the Maritimes have been up in that neck of the woods.
His father made a name for himself racing in the old dirt tracks in 9 Mile River and Sackville, Nova Scotia, in a 38 Plymouth sedan.
I'll tell you something else that goes back in history, and that's the great hospitality. We had a lobster mussel dinner at the motel the other night. It was just absolutely outstanding. You guys, you're disqualified. You live here.
We had a great time. There's no question about that. Let's go on board with Dean Clattenburg.
Dean Clattenburg, Eric Thomas, Raceline Control. Do you read?
Yeah, Raceline, go ahead, buddy.
Dean running fourth. People up front are running very strong, but Seward at this particular point looks to be running as strong as he was at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, our Guilford's Atlantic Industrial Cleaners Pontiac's running okay, but Greg's been strong since the start of the year. I guess I should have known better to think he'd be at the front by now.
Lots of green flag laps, especially in the second half, with a lot more room to roll. Once you get into a rhythm, this place can turn some pretty fast laps.
Yeah, the boys are running good, like I figured. If I can just hang in here, maybe pick up a position or stay where I'm at, I'll be satisfied for tonight's show.
Thanks, Dean.
Dean Clattenburg around the Speedway here at Raceway Park as we have a look at the pace car we will give away at the next GM Goodwrench Super Series event, the 250 coming up in Antigonish.
You going to give it away?
We're selling tickets to raise money for the Drivers' Points Fund. Somebody will win that car at the race.
All right, our Performance Racing News trivia question. When did racing on this island start? 67, 52, or 71? And you were trying to get some hints off of me a little earlier on. I wasn't going to give you that. Centennial year, 1967. First stock car oval opened that year at Freetown. Long defunct, that particular facility.
It certainly is. They became famous in Prince Edward Island for the Sleepy Hollow Car Club, and that always sounded like a bit of a dichotomy to me.
Maybe they're into rallies or something, we don't know. All right, green flag is coming out. We are set to resume the GM Goodwrench 200 at Raceway Park. This place is jammed, a crowd of in excess of 5,000 people watching this battle. Greg Seward, car number 99, our defending champion, up and leading when Terry Clattenburg's car lost some power and basically handed him the lead, but he's off and running and looks like he's going to try and run and hide here. But the number 80 of Roger Miller is sticking right with him, and he has been a story unto himself.
Well, you know, if you were going to take a look at two teams who are at the opposite end of the spectrum as far as financing goes and parts availability and all the rest of it, Greg over the years, of course, has become polished, extremely professional, decently sponsored. Roger, on the other hand, has one engine. That's the one under the hood right now. That's got to last him all through the 94 season.
Roger Miller in his sophomore campaign with MASCAR. 29 years of age, from Kennecook, Nova Scotia. I'm told by Mr. Packet here you don't pronounce the T, so you didn't catch me.
That's it. That's it. And he's one of the few people in Kennecook whose last name isn't White or Anthony.
Well, that's a novel approach. It must make for a pretty thin phone book.
Great when family reunion time comes around.
Oh, I love the Maritimes. There's all kinds of good stuff going on away from the racetrack. Dean Clattenburg running in third place on the 67 of Steve Henderson right behind him.
Stevie Henderson, a service manager at Stewart Pontiac Buick GMC in Truro. So if he doesn't get enough cars during the week, he sure does in the week.
You know, I kind of wonder why Art Steves continues to wear himself out waving that move over flag, just sticking on the end of the flag stand. At a track like this, you're always going to have slow people in the way.
Well, that's right. The MASCAR Tour, of course, have their own share of heavyweights. In the Bud Tour this year, we have a real heavyweight. He's a Canadian reigning heavyweight wrestling champ, Big Steve Pettipaw. He's our flag assistant this year.
Well, nobody wants to get underway any sort of arguments with the flag guy, because step in there and sort of pin your shoulders to the ground, it'll be just about over. 99, Greg Seward. And the 80 of Roger Miller. Now they really make a battle out of it here. Miller has the notion to go down low, but no, he holds off and swings it out to the outside.
Roger will test him, too, because he'll be all over the back of that 99 car, and he's going to try him here. He's almost got enough suds, but he backs out at the last second.
Just doesn't have the same kind of horsepower, and that one motor is probably saying, what are you doing? Don't do this to me. He's trying to catch Seward in the 99, and there's Wayne Smith on the 44. He's missing the hood, and he's one of those victims. I thought he'd run a little better, but on this track, you never know.
Wayne has run extremely well at this particular race facility. It was not in the cards tonight because of, other cars are getting away from him.
Greg Seward, 99, the Thruway Muffler Chevrolet Ken, one of the few cars out here with no battle scars on it, looking rather nice and clean.
Well, he had his fun last Saturday night at Riverside International Speedway in Antigonish, where we're going on the next stop on this tour.
That's right.
Lost the front end of the car against the wall right to the windshield.
So it is brand new hardware, etc., from the windshield out. And right now, everything aerodynamically is holding this car very nicely down to the racetrack as Greg Seward is in command and Roger Miller is still making it hot for him. There's the 50 of Frank Fraser, who won our show at Penny Raceway. Down along the bottom, some of the victims of a very physical racetrack here.
Very physical tonight, and we mentioned that earlier too, the incredible number of cars. That's a peak for us. 36 cars showed up to try and fill those positions here.
Excellent car count. I think they had, what, 12 cars when they first formed NASCAR. It really has grown.
That's exactly right. They used to beg, borrow, and steal enough cars to get a feature going.
Double flags in the air. 2 more times around, and Greg Seward, the 37-year-old out of Arndale, Nova Scotia, will bring it home with a victory here on Raceline.
The GM Goodwrench Super Series. It's the Goodwrench 200 here at Raceway Park.
White flag. 1 more time around for the number 99. And Greg Seward, true to form. I thought he'd run this way at Petty. It wasn't going to be, but he does show his true colors as the back-to-back defending champion of the MASCAR Series. Will come down and take the checkered flag and the win in the GM Goodwrench 200.
You know, these guys all worked so hard for that crowd that is out here tonight. They had 20 cars on display all over Prince Edward Island leading up to the race.
Here is your top 5. Seward, Miller, Dean Clattenburg, Steve Henderson, and John Fleming. A great finish after qualifying well.
Rookies are looking really strong this year. Doug Stokes next at 6th, Frank Fraser, followed by Lane Vance, Scott Kelly, and Dale Richardson.
Scott Kelly hung in there for a top 10 finish, as did he. Lane Vance, an excellent show. And the 5,000-plus fans got their money's worth here at Raceway Park and Oyster Bed Bridge just outside of Charlottetown. We're back to talk with the winner on Raceline in just a moment.
Well, the Major League squeeze going on here. Greg, congratulations. They say when you're hot, you're hot. Second place at the Oxford 250. You weren't having any of that here. First place, you had a hell of a race all night long, running with Clattenburg. You were dogging him. His car went away. You got out front.
We just tried to keep out of trouble. Terry ran a super race. I don't think I had enough for him. I could stay with him and pressure him, but he ran a terrific race. I hated to see him pull out because he's had bad luck this year. And
ignition problems.
Is that right? He deserves a win. He's been having awful luck. But the old 99 through-way muffler Vince Electric Camaro just came through. It's just stayed steady the whole race. We were just biding our time and trying to save some fuel. I didn't know if I could make it all the way on the gas.
Big question for everybody tonight.
Most definitely.
Well, congratulations, Greg. You've won the GM Goodwrench 200. Nice run tonight.
Thanks very much, John. Great to have you guys around. It's been terrific.
Time to select a Castrol GTX performer of the race, and Terry Clattenburg in the 2 is an excellent choice.
Well, he's been the chairman of the board on this Bud NASCAR Tour for many years, and he's been a points leader many times. He led for 140 laps, and one of those nasty gremlins bit him again.
Well, congratulations, Dean, 3rd place. This is going to be a bad habit, you and I, for this 3rd place deal, pal.
Yeah, I'm trying to finish up front, and through attrition tonight, I think Burt Page built me an excellent engine, stayed together 100% tonight. The MASCAR crew did an excellent job on the racetrack, and Budweiser and GM Goodwrench. So I had a hard run, but I stayed in there.
Now, did you have a chance of getting anywhere close to Greg and Roger?
Well, I tell you, I pretty well kissed them goodbye at the beginning, but that last caution, I just give it all I had, and the car actually had a little bit left. But Roger did an excellent job, and of course Greg, as he always does, did a really excellent job.
Well, one more race to go in the GM Goodwrench Series. Are you and I going to see each other in the winner's circle in the next one?
Hey, man, I'll be up front.
Congratulations, Dean. Nice run tonight.
Thank you, guys. GM.
Well, Ken Packham, he didn't have that great of a run in New Brunswick, but I think it was only a matter of time before the 4-time career and our defending points champion had himself a good night. And once he got some clean air out in front and got a little rhythm going here, he was very, very tough to pass.
Greg Seward fans have reason to go down and dance in the streets tonight. There is no question about that. You know, in Oxford, Maine, just a short while ago, he did runner-up deal at that Oxford 250, and probably one of the best finishes for a Canadian in a good long time. And he put on a tremendous performance there, and it just shows you the kind of stuff he's made of here tonight at Raceway Park. You know, Prince Edward Island has been humming, getting ready for this event all week long, and boy, I'll tell you, the folks were not disappointed tonight.
You know who else impressed me too was Roger Miller. I think towards the end he may have even had the quicker car, but Stewart knows how to make that 99 pretty fat.
Kennecott Chamber of Commerce in Nova Scotia, take note. This is the most important thing that's happened there since the last loading of the hay bale, and the people will be cheering Roger. We got a couple of real hard runners from that part of the country.
That is going to wrap it up from Raceway Park in Charlottetown. Thank you for being with us. On behalf of Ken Packham and John Massingbird, I'm Eric Thomas, and we'll talk to you next time on Raceline.
All in-car and wall cameras supplied by Sony Canada. Raceline has been brought to you by Kodak Gold Ultra 400 Film for all your Kodak moments. By Aerofoil Wiper Blades, the leading edge in wiper technology. by your GM Goodwrench Service Plus dealer, where you get the finest quality work at competitive prices. By AC Delco Parts, where the difference is quality. By Castrol GTX Motor Oil, engineered for today's harder working engines. By Split Fire Spark Plugs. They only cost more until you use them. And by your Parts Pro retailer. Call 1-800-567-4994 for the Parts Pro dealer nearest you.